What we brush off as a simple miscommunication is often a strict mathematical breakdown. When two people talk past each other, they are usually watching their logic crack under the pressure of a structural flaw. In logic, this failure is known as the ambiguity fallacy. It occurs when an arguer directs an opponent toward an unwarranted conclusion by using a claim that holds multiple, distinct interpretations. This glowing framework shows the standard form. Rational thought relies on this architecture. A premise, combined with another, securely supports a conclusion. If a word in that top premise holds dual meanings, the framework's integrity is compromised. Without a definitive meaning, the conclusion cannot hold. Ambiguity functions as a direct violation of the rules of logic, invalidating an argument's structural integrity before the debate even begins. This structural failure violates a specific, rigorous law of debate known as the acceptability criterion. The acceptability criterion mandates that an audience must be able to clearly understand a premise to evaluate its truthfulness. If you cannot assign a single meaning to a premise, you cannot verify it. And if you cannot verify it, that premise is immediately disqualified as valid evidence. This invalidated ambiguity systematically infiltrates arguments through two distinct linguistic vectors. The first vector is semantic ambiguity. This is a failure of vocabulary, occurring when a specific word possesses lexical multiplicity, multiple dictionary definitions, and the context fails to clarify which one applies. The second vector is syntactical ambiguity, sometimes called amphiboly. This is a failure of grammatical structure, where the words themselves are clear, but the way they are arranged allows for entirely different interpretations. To maintain the integrity of a discussion, a critical thinker has to isolate and neutralize both the semantic and syntactical vectors before accepting any given claim as valid evidence. Consider two colleagues, Ed and Fred, leaving their office building and walking out into a rainstorm. Ed looks at the rain and asks, "How about a ride home?" Fred agrees, and they walk to the parking lot. On the left side of this split-screen logic tree, we map Ed's internal logic. He assumes he is requesting a ride. His implicit premise, Fred's car is available. On the right, Fred assumes Ed's offering a ride. His implicit premise, Ed's car is available. One question branches into two mutually exclusive conclusions. Ed expects Fred's car, and Fred expects Ed's car. The error here is pure syntactical ambiguity. The words are common, but the grammar lacks a clear action target. Ed failed to specify who was giving the ride and who was receiving it. Because the syntax was flawed, neither colleague actually possessed an acceptable premise to act upon. Acting on an implicit conclusion derived from a syntactically ambiguous premise guarantees a logical and practical breakdown. We see a similar structural error in high-stakes environments, like academic advising, where precise communication dictates a student's entire curriculum. A student tells her advisor about her previous philosophy classes, stating, "I hope I have more exciting courses this term." Looking at this formal sentence diagram, we identify an elliptical construction. Essential words have been omitted.
The grammar allows option A. The student wants additional exciting courses, meaning she enjoyed philosophy. But it also supports option B. The student wants courses that are more exciting, meaning she disliked philosophy. The advisor is trapped in a logical deadlock. There is no mathematical basis to choose option A over option B based on the text provided. Elliptical constructions create a void of information. Any advice or conclusion drawn from that void is logically indefensible. Beyond grammatical structure lies the definition of the words themselves. Even when a sentence is syntactically perfect, logic can still fracture at the lexical level. Imagine driving through heavy traffic. The passenger points out the window to the left, but vocally instructs the driver, "Turn right here." This introduces semantic ambiguity, a failure that occurs when a single word possesses lexical multiplicity that is not resolved by the immediate context. This diagram shows the word right splitting into two different definitions inside the driver's mind. Definition 1 is spatial, the cardinal direction opposite of left. Definition 2 is temporal, meaning immediately or right now. The driver jerks the wheel in the wrong direction because they processed the spatial semantic definition, entirely ignoring the visual context of the passenger pointing. Whether the flaw lives in the grammar of the sentence or the dictionary definition of the word, the result is identical. An unresolved premise always forces an unwarranted conclusion. Recognizing ambiguity is only the first step. You need an active defense protocol to deal with ambiguous premises during an actual debate. This flowchart breaks down the procedure. Step 1. Isolate the variable. Determine if it is a flawed syntax or overloaded word. Step 2. Halt the progression and demand they stipulate meaning. Step 3. If they aren't there, state your own contextual hypothesis before proceeding. This interruption serves as a mandatory quality control check on the argument's underlying evidence. Refusing to proceed past an ambiguous premise is the only way to enforce the acceptability criterion. There is, however, a critical caveat. Listeners can weaponize ambiguity, fabricating confusion where none actually exists. This logical error is called false ambiguity. It occurs when a listener deliberately disregards clear contextual evidence to force an unjustified interpretation of a claim. Take a simple commercial sign outside a restaurant that reads, "Pizza's delivered free." A customer walking in and demanding that the pizza itself costs nothing is executing a bad faith interpretation. They are willfully ignoring the context of the word delivered. In cases of false ambiguity, the burden of proof shifts. The logical failure belongs entirely to the reader enforcing the error, not the author of the premise. We find the rigorous frameworks defining these logical failures in foundational texts like T. Edward Damer's Attacking Faulty Reasoning. As the text makes clear, context acts as the ultimate constraint on linguistic multiplicity. Logic requires the removal of both accidental ambiguity and bad faith interpretations. Only when a premise is clearly understood and accepted can it function as a reliable basis for a conclusion.